Hello again, my name is Ben, here on today with I guess you could call it a set review, but I'd prefer calling it a book review. Here I have with me today is the Lego Star Wars Brickmaster book, ages 7 and up, 200, more than 240 bricks and 2 figures, the Clone Trooper and the Battle Droid, and retailed for $29.99. So here we have something a bit interesting today. Just browsing eBay and I found this and I got a rush of nostalgia when I used to have this book, so I decided to pick it up and I'm gonna review all of it. So here it is. Basically, this is just a Brickmaster book series where you have different models with different parts you can build, have a little bit of a combat situation. There's a couple books like this. You can see this one here, representing the Battle of Christophsis with a AAT, and a Republic attack shuttle. You know, the Lego Star Wars branding on it. And you can see all the other alternate models you have, which I will be going over in this video. You see all of them here. Battle for Christophsis, Desert Raid, Ice Encounter, Forest Fight. And C, create your own LEGO Star Wars adventures with this amazing set containing bricks, minifigures, and an instruction book. There are 8 exclusive models to build. How nifty. All that fun stuff, like you can see the price down there, and all this fun stuff here. So that pretty much does it for the book, but I will mention some things on the inside. You see the contents of the book here, all the pieces. And throughout the book, you'll see, obviously, it has this instructions, but it'll contain some fun information about different things like battle droids, clone troopers, and you can go throughout the book. You can get like Lego tips, and you'll get like did you knows, and even on the specific models, you'll get more tips. You'll get a diagram of all the different parts of the ship, and you'll even get let me see if I can find the page here. You'll get data files on like the manufacturers and like contents of them, which I think is really cool. Like the amount of work that went into this is actually pretty impressive. Like a lot of care and attention to detail. So I actually do quite like that a bit. So more than just instructions, it's a nice little information piece. Well, that being said, we can now start on to the first of the builds, the Battle of Christophsis. We'll start off with the figures, obviously. Really, there's not much I'm going to go over here with them. Here we have a battle droid. You've seen a billion of these. When I ordered this one, the person sent it with 2 of the non-gun holding hands, so that was a bit of a shame. But you've seen a battle droid. They've been using the same model for like 24 years now. I can get these out of the way so it'll actually focus on the battle droid for like more than 5 seconds. Thank you. You see he has his gun. You can see the battle droid. Really exciting stuff, I know. Interesting to note, when I ordered this, the person included this, which is meant to be a clone trooper, but who knows? I don't know why it's there. And there he goes. But more importantly, here's a standard Phase 1 clone trooper from the Clone Wars series with that sort of art style. You've seen a billion of these before. I don't want to go on too long about it, so there you go. And then we'll start on the builds. We have an AAT mini build here. Pretty fun. You'll see it's using some pretty basic construction here. The large plates on the bottom with some of these quarter round circle pieces in dark blue and dark gray, sort of getting that main base shape of it. And using some pretty basic construction here, building upwards for the main body, the slopes and grill slopes and all that. A hinged dome piece here for the cockpit, which doesn't really do much. You have the guns on the sides using some cylinders, and you can move them up here. The blasters are with simple binoculars. Some slopes here, and it's attached on one of these swivel pieces here. The main cannon is, so you can get a full 360-degree rotation on that, so it's pretty nice. And then the main cannon is also attached on a hinge, so you can move it up and down. So it gets a nice functionality out of this mini model. It's pretty nice. A few things to mention. You can see some of the grill slopes here are kind of tearing because of just wear and tear over the years, so that's a bit of a shame. But other than that, it's a nice, fair enough build. Pretty simplistic, but it captures the look of an AT pretty well enough. That said, move on to the Republic attack shuttle, the new class shuttle. Some more pretty basic construction here. This one's a lot more of a denser build than the AAT. You can tell that most of the parts went into this one. Using some pretty basic construction on the bottom, but you can see there's 1x2 clear bricks here, so it can kind of float off the ground, so it can actually land properly. You can see the main front of it here is at an angle attached on a clip here, so you can see some pretty basic techniques here to make up the cockpit. It looks pretty nice, more binoculars for blasters here. For the main body, you can see a lot of slopes just building up the main design here. Not much to really say, built on top of some plates. On the sides here, you'll see the blaster cannons being made with some simple levers. More slopes. See this part up here, the shield generator, which is built up with some basic pieces there. See some pretty decent looking thrusters on the back here. They put the pieces at an angle here, which I thought was pretty interesting. So there's that. And then the wings are pretty simply attached on some clips here and some hinges so that you can put them in landing position and in flight position, and they're pretty basic. You see some red, light gray, dark gray, and yellow. So that does it for the Republic Attack Shuttle. I think it's the probably superior build of the two, because you can see a lot more of the parts went into it, other than AAT. But they're still both really nice builds, and pretty good representations of the vehicles that they're meant to represent. So, good first builds off so far. Like these ones quite a bit. With that being said, we will now move on to the Ice Encounter. So here we have the Ice Encounter. Now, one thing to mention about these builds, they do leave quite a few leftover parts. One nice thing to note is that the first build leaves, obviously, no spare parts. I'm not too sure for the next two if they will or will not, but we'll find out when I build them. So, to my knowledge, both of these builds here, they're non-canon. They aren't really anything specific from Star Wars, but they do, in the book, they have a lot of, like, nice little details about them, where they give them these fun little information pieces. I won't mention them here, but this is called a STAS, or a Single Trooper Airspeeder, for the Separatist. And this is what they call an LAAT R, I think, for, like, reconnaissance. Basically meant to be like a gunship for recon specialist things. But anywho, for starters, we'll start off with the Stas, whatever. You can see it here. It's got a pretty interesting shape. This sort of round and then two parts shooting at the back. Using some more of the rounded quarter pieces in dark blue here for that shaping there. See some basic plates building up the bottom. And then for the front here, using some studs on the sides, you'll see a lot of these translucent blue studs representing lights. The hinging piece here for a small cannon, and then a larger cannon on the side here attached by a clip. Top here, basic build up with bricks and slopes and some little windscreen pieces. The battle droid holds on a bar, then he just stands there and you can hold his gun. Pretty nifty. And then the back here, you can just see built up with some slopes and some tiles and some grills for vents. Honestly, this build isn't too impressive. It's a little generic and kind of basic. But, you know, I like how they gave the builds an explanation. But really nothing to write home about. The next build here, the LAATR Recon. You can see it sort of has some inspiration from the Republic gunship and some of its design aspects, but it really is kind of its own thing. See the front of it here, building up, the base is built up with some pretty basic plates. You see some slopes around here trying to give a bit for the trooper to hide in. So you can have some control levers here. This front part here has some wing parts on the sides and large slope on the front, and it's at an angle, which looks pretty nice. For the main body, you can see there's more slopes here for the wings to rest on, and some hinges for them to attach to. And then on here, these twin cannons, as they're called, sort of represent the missile pods on a Republic gunship, so I thought that was a nice detail. At the top of it here, you can see there a rotating swivel is a heavy cannon, which built up pretty basically. You'll see on the sides there, it's got some just I don't know what it's meant to be, but it has that, and it's really the only yellow on the set or on this build for some reason. And then the wings here, they just attach on hinges. You can see the round pieces here built up pretty basically. They can move up and down, but they're meant to be at a resting position. On the back here, you can see just some pretty basic thrusters. And that really kind of does it for this build. The trooper sits in there, and you can just come out pretty simply enough. Really not much to say about these two. I'll be honest, they aren't really super impressive to me. Like, they're cool-ish, I guess, but compared to the first builds, they're kind of a drop in quality. A little bit disappointing. They're still okay. I'm hoping that things will get a little better with the next builds, which I will get to just right now with the Desert Raid. And here we have the Desert Raid. First things first, here's all the spare pieces. Not really too much there to go on about, you know, some plates. So here we have the mobile missile platform and the S-Wing speeder bike. So starting off with the missile platform. It's a bit of a weird design because they refer to it as a missile platform, but then they refer to this part in the back as a blaster cannon with really no missile present. It's a little weird. The bottom here, you can see it has what they call a ground vibration sensor, and then building up here where the front of it is, you can see a lot of studs on the side techniques with slopes in the dark blue. On the sides here, we have some dishes representing what they call the data screens. There's no real place for the droid to hold on to, like in the Stas, but you can just stand in there just fine. Pretty basic there. Then through the back here, it's using a lot of plates at the bottom, just lining up. And then you can just see some tiles on the top. For the back where the thing rests, you'll see some parts on the sides with the cylinders for a maintenance hatch. At the top here, there's a lot of slopes, or not slopes, but tiles here representing targeting sensors. And the gun itself, just using some pretty basic construction. You can see it like slots in here and it's at rest, but then you can like raise it up with some hinges and then it can just rotate 360 degrees. And then you see it's pretty basic, built up with some cylinders. And then at the end there, you'll see a dish and then just some studs. Not really much to say about this build. It's a little weird. I do kind of like it, but it's not anything too significant. It's all right. What is pretty nice though is what they call the S-Wing speeder bike. I think it just looks pretty nice. The nose of it here, you'll see some light cannons at the front using the binocular pieces, and it's all attached onto one of these rods, attaching to the main body. The side here, we have these levers acting as targeting sensors. Some of these slopes here for a small windscreen. Some more studs on the side techniques here, covering the figure, where she can just sit in there just fine. Moving towards the back here, this area is called a cargo hold, despite the fact that you can't really hold anything in it. Then there you see the wings here, which are just hinged, and you can just see in the pretty basic using some of the roundish plates there, and then some more light blasters with binocular pieces. Got some nice detailing, like using some of the parts here. They call this the air intake and use some of these rods here in the dishes and the studs. In the back here, you got the vent and then some of the thrusters using the 1x2 translucent clear pieces and then the studs on there, which I think looks pretty nice. Overall, it's a pretty nice speeder. I like it quite a lot because you can probably use it in context outside of just a Republic speeder. Like, you can probably put it in other dioramas and it can work just well. I will say this is definitely a step up from the ice encounter. I'm not too big of a fan of the mobile missile platform, but the speeder is rather nice, I will say. But with that all being said, we'll now move on to the final build, the Forest Fight. And here we have the final of our builds, the Forest Fight. Featuring here on our left is the VTS, as they call it, the Varied Terrain Speeder. And on our right here, the ATRT. Now, this is one of the few that is actually like an in-universe model. Because again, to my knowledge, I don't believe this thing has been seen in any Star Wars media. The Varied Terrain Speeder, at least. But with that being said, we'll start off with the Varied Terrain Speeder. Actually, first, spare pieces. Not much to say there. I think this one has one of the fewest amount of spare pieces left over out of most of the builds, because this one does use a lot of the pieces for both of them, and both of these are fairly sizable builds. But for starters, the Varied Terrain Speeder. The front of it here, you can see using some of these cone pieces and the cylinder pieces with these studs on the sides. Making some nice front pieces here. Overall looks pretty nice. They refer to these as anti-personnel lasers. There's a little satellite dish on the top here, where they call a scanner. And in the front here, which is on a hinge, which is attached onto here as a bar for the battle droid to hold on to. Pretty basic construction from there. The main body of it here is using a lot of just circle the quarter round pieces. So not much to really say about those. Some tiles here, some more of those cylinder pieces all around it, giving some nice detail. This one's using some yellow in its build, which I think is a nice breakup of the color scheme and adds a nice bit to it, which I quite like. And then at the top of it here, you see just built up with some more slopes and whatnot. And on the base here is the dish, built up with some more smaller dishes on top, and there's a little turret for the swivel. They call a blaster cannon. On the side here are the cooling vents, using one of these 1x2 bricks with the lines in it. Some studs, some slopes. Pretty basic cannon, and it can move 360 degrees. Not much to really say about this build. I do quite like it a lot. It's probably one of the largest of the Separatist builds that we get. Most of the other ones are pretty wimpy, I won't lie. But I do like this one quite a bit. And now for the final of the Republic builds, the ATRT. You've seen one of these before. We've gotten quite a lot of these in different sets. You see the base of it here, using some of the wing pieces for the feet, attached with some hinges with the clips, some studs, and some grill slopes here for the feet. There's only one pair of legs, so there isn't too much articulation you can get. Only really 2 points. And these main legs are pretty basic. Some clips here attaching them, some plates holding them all together. Using the studs on the sides with some grills and some cheese slopes there. And on this nice red and gray. At the base here, you'll see some of the translucent blue studs acting as lights. And then the body here, you can see is attached on a swivel, so you can have the cannon rotate. But you can see here is a jumper tile, which holds it in place so it's not spinning all over the place, which is nice. And the back here with some basic build up, you can see a place for the weapon to hold on to, which is like the only set that has actual weapon storage, which I like quite a bit. And then using here is the rod, which you can see is serving as the antenna. Pretty nice there. And then the main cockpit here, built up on some plates, studs on the side techniques with the wings, some light blaster cannons, some light blasters, and then one larger blaster cannon in the center. Some control levers for the clone trooper to hold on to, and pretty basic seating. So overall, that does it for the ATRT. I do like this one quite a bit. ATRT is a nice Republic vehicle. Not one of my favorites, but I love the AT series in general, and it's a nice one to have as a build. Not like the best ATRT we've gotten, but it's not one of the really oversized ones, so I do like it for that quite a bit. But with that said, these ones are probably my favorite out of all the builds. Both of the vehicles for the sides are pretty balanced and equal in size, because a lot of them you'll see that often the favors in the Republic's hands, I feel like. So having two fairly sizable builds is nice here. But with that, it kind of does it for the review. With my final thoughts on this book as a whole, I do like it quite a lot. This is a nice little memento of the past, a nice little just book here. Not really little, but you get some nice figures. You know, it's always nice to get build up your army of clone troopers and battle droids, and you get some nice builds here all throughout, which allow you to probably expand your Separatist and Republic forces for the time. And so this was really nice for that. For $30, though, I don't really think you're getting a lot out of it. The book itself is nice enough. Like, you'll have some extra little tidbits of information, which are pretty cool. But I don't think it's worth the $30. You probably find better sets for that time, and even now, for that price, which are giving you a lot more. All the builds here are really nice. The Battle of Christophsis, those two builds are really good. I'll say the Ice Encounter probably has the worst of them. Neither of the builds there really do it for me. The Desert Raid, I like the speeder bike. The mobile missile platform is pretty so-so. And the Forest Fight's probably my favorite. I love the two builds here. The ATRT and the VTS are really cool. So those are my thoughts on those. But with that being said, I think that wraps it up for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll stay tuned for next time for what else I have to upload. With all that being said, thank you for 500 subscribers. Hope you have a great day. Thank you and goodbye.